One of the oldest human inventions, the practice of pottery, has developed alongside civilization. The earliest ceramic objects have been dated as far back as 29,000 BC. Since clay is found nearly everywhere, early humans had easy access to this responsive material, allowing them to mold and shape the world they observed around them. As soon as early humans developed fire, they discovered that heating these formed clay objects transformed them into a different material that was permanent and much more useful to them, mainly items like bowls, plates, and utensils for storing and preparing food. Due to the ceramics left behind from various cultures, archaeologists have been able to better understand and piece together ancient societies and how they lived. This is because paintings and other documentation that is more archival have not preserved as well as ceramics does. Pieces or shards of ceramic material do not decompose or deteriorate once they have been fired. Pottery is one of the most durable forms of art, with many fragments found from almost all time periods and civilizations throughout the entire world. When a person makes a piece of pottery, they're likely to consider its lasting quality and what it means to have something made by their hands to be found millenniums later. One popular ceramic form, known as coil pottery, has its roots from ancient Greece several millennia ago. The coil method in Grecian art came sometime after the pottery wheel method began around 2500 BC. After the initial construction of the coils, the pots were often then placed on a wheel, turned, and smoothed to finish them up. Sometime between 6000 and 4000 BC, the first potter's wheel was invented in Mesopotamia. This brought about a revolution in the way ancient people could create items out of clay. No longer were pottery makers restricted to the long process of hand molding clay. They were then able to have more freedom in experimenting with new forms and aesthetics. When the potter's wheel arrived, it shifted the process even more. Instead of serving utilitarian purposes, it now also served artistic ones, because they could produce pottery in more mass quantities. While the earliest types of items found by archaeologists were generally undecorated, unglazed, hand-formed clay vessels, by 6000 BC, places like the Middle East, China, and Europe had developed a wide array of design techniques. The first mechanical potter's wheel wasn't actually invented until the 19th century, so the first potter's wheel were manual potter's wheels, and they were truly a lasting invention. There are many ways to operate a potter's wheel without electricity. For the most part, in ancient times, pottery wheels were turned manually, with the user kicking their feet to put it in motion. Other ways to spin a potter's wheel included using a stick that is put into a hole at the top of the wheel and then turning it, or simply speeding it up by hand. Once the mechanical wheel was invented, potters could start manufacturing multiple items per hour, completely revolutionizing the industry once again. Talking about our own great nation, nearly 2,000 years ago, agriculture began here in North America. This new method of food production allowed previously nomadic indigenous people to settle in more stationary areas. Here in North America, early Pueblo life had begun to focus on agriculture, although people did still hunt and gather wild foods. This is when pottery first appeared in the United States, down in the southwestern region. Various functional pottery forms began to take shape to assist with storing grains and liquids, as well as preserving food. Initially, handmade vessels were for purely functional purposes, with little consideration for decoration. Most early vessels were undecorated, leaving only the texture of the coils and the pinches or indentations from sticks and paddles used to shape the clay. Art, especially when we're talking about ceramics, was simply a part of everyday life in ancient or more historical times. It was not something to be separated from daily routines or to be hung in special buildings like art galleries. Ceramics were made truly to use on a day-to-day basis. Ancient ceramics were decorated to enhance their aesthetic qualities or for their spiritual power. However, they were truly a part of ancient people's everyday lifestyle. Remember, this is a time before people could just go to the store and buy manufactured kind of soulless plastic cups and dishes. People really had to create their own wares to use every day. So, although not necessarily a necessity like it was in the past, when we create with clay today, we are truly connecting with our ancient past and our own humanity, creating something timeless and unique.